Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have an awesome episode with Amanda and Alex Young. They went from $197,000 in consumer debt, basically, in student loans and credit cards, to now today where they've paid off over $70,000 of that debt and are well on track of paying that off very soon. Their story is inspiring, and I'm really glad you've joined us here to watch this today. Thanks for joining me today. I have Alex and Amanda Young. They are here to kind of share with us. They've got a really cool story. We've been talking about this for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Is that 2 years?
Yeah, just around 2 years now.
Sure. So we've been having both conversations. We've been talking about it. You guys, you got to work on it. And I'm excited to share with everybody and hear from you guys your story about your wealth building journey and kind of the ups and downs and the things you went through. How you're using real estate to build wealth and kind of what you guys are doing there. So thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, we're excited to share our story.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about early days, either before you started going your wealth building journey. Give us some scope of what your life looked like in the early days.
Sure. Early days.
Do you want to start that?
Start that one.
Yeah.
It's all based around me on that part. So right at the beginning of our relationship, I made the great financial decision of moving out to Colorado on about a week and a half's notice, and did that. Loved living out there for 3 years. Worst financial decision I ever made. So ended up between that and getting married here while still living out there, and just the cost of living, our financial situation definitely did not start off on a positive note. And after realizing that we could not afford to live out there anymore, life brought us back to the Green Bay area, got into real estate, and we started, we started at the bottom. So yeah, that's kind of the very short form of it.
So what was that? So what made your trip out there? What made it a poor financial decision? Was it the moving costs? Was it
everything?
Everything?
The
Okay.
fact that he rented a pod and it all went on a credit card.
Yep.
Okay.
It was one of those where I had very typically been pre-approved for a credit card that was well above my pay grade. I was doing retail sales at the time for a telecom company, and this was the first adult credit card I had received, and that credit limit had 5 figures to it, and I was like, oh geez. And I didn't it was one of those where I was able to, whilst living in the Green Bay area when it started, to use it, pay it, like I was taught. And then bigger expenses came up with moving out to Colorado and finding a place and living out there. And it was just one of those where it was one small decision that just gradually built up like a snowball going downhill that led to more and more debt, more and more obstacles. And that's kind of where it put us.
Yeah. Well, and then when I moved out there, I didn't have a job for 3 months.
Okay.
And so at that time it was the summer in between my first and second year of grad school. So everything was going on a credit card for me because we needed to pay for gas, we needed groceries. And so it was just easy, like here, we'll just run it on the plastic and eventually pay it off later.
Okay. Okay. So what was the moment that you realized, hey, this isn't going to work, or what changed you to either come back or adjust or make some changes? What was that?
Well, like Alex kind of mentioned, our family kind of pulled us back to the area, which we also were not sad about because of the cost of living. What we were paying for a tiny apartment is a house payment here in Wisconsin. So we were looking forward to moving back. And then it was the first winter Alex was in real estate. Things were a little slower. I was working at the library, so not the best paying job for a public servant. And we had an argument, and it got to the point where we're at rock bottom. Like, we don't know how to climb our way up.
It was a painful circumstance, because when I started in real estate, which was June 1st, 2017, I started hot out of the gate. I was like, oh, real estate, like I've seen HGTV. I know how this works. Super easy.
Right.
A couple deals under my belt within the first 2 months, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And then got complacent with where that was in managing the business as opposed to trying to grow future business, and was royally slapped in the face come November, December, January, to the point where I still remember that first winter. I think our bank account was at $6.17. Did not have a savings account. Still had the credit cards.
I was working 2 jobs.
She was working 2 jobs. I was doing this. Also looking at leaving real estate / picking up a second job. Was donating plasma to have money to pay for groceries and for gas. Like as scrape the bare bottom as you can get. And it was just one of those where we were kind of at a loss of, okay, what to do, where to go, how to proceed forward.
Sure.
So
give me can you guys give me a monetary like scope of how much debt you had, or like how bad? What was rock bottom for you? $6 in the bed. Was that the trigger? $6.17.
$6.17 in actual cash that we could withdraw from any accounts. That was not a credit card cash advance.
Okay.
In terms of overall debt, well into the 6 figures.
Sure.
Between
I want to say it was close to like 200,000.
my student loans, her student
Yeah.
loans, consumer credit card debt.
Extra loans to try to consolidate credit card debt.
Just everything.
Right.
So that was the being backed into a corner moment was that winter.
Sure.
So
It's not getting any better. It's $6.17 in your checking account and a lot of debt. So you had very low income coming in. Your expenses keep racking up. That had to be. Tell me how you're feeling in that moment, that rock bottom moment. I mean, that had to be almost drowning. Like,
yeah, I felt like we were, drowning is a great way to put it. Like we were in like a mud hole where we couldn't dig our way out, and we just kept sinking further and further. Like we'd get traction and then just fall right behind again. So I felt hopeless.
yeah, it was, a sense of helplessness was definitely a common feeling. Just a constant anxiety between not so much how are we going to pay these bills, but a more basic level. How are we going to pay for food? How are we going to pay for where we live? The Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic needs were barely being met. So we couldn't think of anything above that.
And it was also putting a stress on our relationship because
yeah.
we got to the point where we, for the first time in our marriage, had a serious argument where we're like, do we even want to stay married?
Yeah.
So that was also like that's not okay feeling.
This is a big deal. This is a big problem we need to address and hit straight on. All right, awesome. So let's talk about how we can help somebody. What would your recommendation be for someone who maybe feels exactly how you guys described it? What would be your advice for that person?
Don't be embarrassed to ask for help or talk to somebody. Like I know for us, growing up, money was always that hush thing that was never talked around kids. So we never really learned about it and kind of were embarrassed of where we were because we got ourselves into that position. So I would just talk to somebody. Like there are so many experts. Check out some books from the library. You don't even have to pay for them then. And
I think it's just, for me, it was acknowledging that you are in a position of helplessness. More so, it's very, very difficult to swallow pride, especially now when everybody is put in the limelight by their highlight reel. And you always want to show to others that things are going great, you have it together, you made this transition into real estate, like everything's wonderful, and it's not. And it's okay to not be the case where you have things going and all put together. It's all right to not have things put together. It's just a matter of acknowledging it first and then finding a solution, because you can either continue to focus on the problem and play the victim and the woe is me, nothing's going to get better, this is just how it's going to be, or it's okay, I've been backed into a corner, I cannot go any further back than this, how do I move forward, and then implementing that.
Okay, so your advice to that person is don't be afraid to reach out to people. You have to get really real. It sounds like you got really real with yourselves and said, this is the position I'm in. You guys took ownership. I can hear that saying, we put ourselves in this position. I heard you say that. And then you said, okay, now we got to put our pride away and not show people a highlight reel. We have to have some intimate conversations with people that we believe will help us. And you started doing that. I think that's great advice for people.
Yeah, vulnerability is a good thing.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's not usually how it's viewed.
Right.
So
it's actually one of the strongest, it's one of the biggest strengths somebody can have is have humility and vulnerability. And then and make that change from there. So you guys are in this. There's relationship problems because it's stressful. You guys feel like you're drowning. A lot of anxiety in and around it. You started reaching out for help. Okay, let's start talking about like when you started to turn that corner.
Yeah.
What was it that like really said, okay, we turned that corner once we started doing X, Y, and Z?
I think it came to you. You had more of a conversation with
Yep,
Caleb.
it was just one of those. So I had always had the mindset. I'm very much about the entrepreneurship, self-development, self-improvement. And one of the things that I'd always known was seek the advice of people in places where you want to be. So I looked out to anybody who I viewed as being successful. So obviously being here in real estate at our current office and having a personal relationship with you, I came to you and I said, this is a situation that we're in. I'm at a loss. Like I'm at that crossroads of either it's going to go downhill and I'm going to be going back into a more 9-to-5 corporate based job and just kind of getting by, or I stay in real estate, but I need to figure out a solution to this surmounting obstacle that we were facing as a relationship, and just very having a candid conversation with you at that point in time was probably the big moment for me. And then it was kind of the conversation here again of just being truthful and honest of, hey, spoke to Caleb. He wants to have a conversation with us. So, yeah.
So, do you remember what we talked about in that first conversation, or what kind of what we started? What was like the first thing that we did? Or I guess like let's talk about the first to dos. You
joint accounts.
You came in with humility is the first thing. You came in and said, this is what's going on, and something's got to change. But do you remember like kind of what we started to do? What was like the first thing that we started to do, or the first couple things we started to do when we started chatting about making some changes?
Well, we looked at where our cash flow was. We had, how many things we had going out for bills and how much we had coming in as an income, to see where we were and how off balance we were. And I think that just seeing that visually was the best thing for us, because it was like, oh, like we need to fix this. And it was easy to see.
Just knowing what there was.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see the little piece, like I've got this bill, I've got this bill, I've got this bill, as opposed to, okay, here is a statement of the debt that I have. Here is a statement of the payments that I have to make every month, and actually having that all in one spot instead of just treating it one bill at a time was probably the first eye opener that we had, because we had never done that.
Yeah, we literally graphed it out. I remember that we drew the house and the inflow and the outflow, and literally what happens is when you put it all together, you're getting clarity on how much income's coming in and how much is going out. And so when you start measuring that and you put it in front of your brain, I didn't tell you that you had to make changes. I just said, this is what it is. Like, and you guys made your own decisions from there. Actually, I'll get to that a little bit later. Super impressed with how you did this. But in that meeting, first you guys got your mindset right, so things got to change. Then you came in, and then we started conversations around clarity. Okay, what is actually going on? How much income's going in? How much income's going out? And then let's actually talk about net worth. Let's talk about how much debt you have, and let's talk about the assets you have in net worth and things like that. And then it's literally the first things that we talk about most of the time in these conversations. Where are we today? And then let's look at some options to do work from there. Okay, so after that moment, I want to say we met probably 4 times, maybe 5 times over the course of 2.5 years.
If that.
If that. And you guys, what changes did you start making at that point?
Well, one of the things with this, when we started putting everything into a spreadsheet, we also looked at the interest rates of everything. And so we started attacking those high interest rate credit cards, doing the balance transfer things, so that way we could get the interest to 0% and throw that money at our actual debt. So that, I think, was the first big thing that took us most of the time.
Yeah, it was really just getting all of that information in one spot and seeing where our biggest pain points were, to where we were not making any progress at all, and in most instances slipping backwards by making the minimum payment. Because I had always grown up thinking that, okay, if you have a credit card and it has a debt on it and you have a minimum payment, okay, you make that minimum payment, you don't use it anymore, you don't touch it, You just make the minimum payment, and after a while it'll go away, as opposed and actually having that shift in mindset that you had mentioned, and how the interest rates and overall methodology to just get the balances lower, I think was the biggest thing for the two of us to attack.
Yeah, and then to tie into that too, I was always raised like you get paid and you throw your whole paycheck at bills. And then maybe if you have stuff, you can save it. So we also had to be very real, like, okay, we're not going to pay all of our money on bills. We're going to actually put some in savings. And that was also like a light bulb went off for us.
Mm-hmm.
You started getting disciplined, putting yourself first instead of everybody else that needs money or that is in that situation. Sometimes you've had to tell people to wait, right? You said you're going to wait and I'm going to pay you off later, but I'm going to take care of our family first. Very smart. You guys, you're in a commission-based business and you're in a salary position,
Correct.
right? So talk to me about that, like in this process. So you guys said, we're going to go after our debts. We're going to go after the highest interest debts first. Kind of give me some milestones in that process.
So, I mean, the first thing we did, I think we had to go through, we were approved for like 5 credit cards to help us do that balance transfer.
Way more than that.
Well,
it was.
I felt like only 5.
It was like 8 different accounts that we ended up opening up in a very short period of time, because of the method that we had taken of trying to leverage 0% interest rates on cards for an extended period.
Well, and at one point, like the highest credit card we had was $17,000 for a balance. So we had to split that up onto like 2 or 3 cards.
So I want to back up just a little bit. The strategy that they used, you guys, is they said, okay, I'm paying 24% interest on this credit card. I'm paying 17% interest on this card, and I'm paying 12%, whatever. All those percentages added up. This is a strategy that they opened up a 0 balance transfer account and they transferred those debts at 25% interest, 17% interest, 12%, put it on a 0% card for 6 months, for 12 months, for whatever the terms were. I want to be very cautious with this approach. You guys, it worked for you guys because you were very disciplined, saying, I'm not going to continue to add to that balance. So it worked. It was very, very smart, actually, because you're using the credit card's money for you're stopping the bleeding or the outflow on those higher interest rate cards, and then you guys are attacking the balances at that point. It took, like, in order for you guys to do that, to open up 5 or 8 accounts, I mean, that took some really good, you had to be really clear on the terms, you had to be keep really good track, be very disciplined, and you guys can see that in your journey. That was the behaviors you started learning and started adapting to, going, let's not put it on the credit card, let's just wait, or let's take control of it. So very good strategy. Okay, so you guys did that. You start, they're all transferred over, as many as you can. Was there still a couple that had high interest rates on them?
Maybe one.
I think there was, one or two, but we were able to take care of that really quickly. One of the other things we also did was, once we got those cards in the mail, we froze them in our freezer.
Yeah, we had a Ziploc bag that had all the cards in there. It was then inside of a Ziploc container that we had filled with water and had frozen, and it was sitting in our chest freezer in our garage.
You literally, I love that.
Literally froze the account.
Because you literally froze the account.
Literally.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, because there's certain things that could trip you up. I mean, you keep that in your wallet, and there's just something happens, and you might just swipe it, right? So that's great. That's great. Okay, so you guys started. Did you attack the highest balances first? It sounded like you guys any higher interest rates that you guys had, it sounds like you guys attacked those first. So like if you didn't transfer over to 0 balances, you got rid of the ones you were paying interest on. You got your 0% over here on this side. They're froze, so they're not accumulating a balance. You paid those off, and then how did you, like the ones that were 0%, then like how did you start attacking that group?
We waited until we got the first statement to see what they wanted us to do for a minimum payment. And then we kind of looked at our finances and tried to figure out, okay, they want only $50. Can we maybe do $250 to try to balance it with the minimum payments we had previously with all those? Now we have fewer cards, 0% interest. Let's throw more money at them to get them paid down a little quicker.
Because you were already paying that amount when they're on the other side. The difference is now you're taking the interest you were paying that credit card,
and it's going towards
paying your principal off. Super smart.
And that was the big thing, because our initial fear with going this direction was we didn't know for the balance transfer costs what that was going to look like I originally was under the understanding that we would have to pay those balance transfer costs up front. Come to find out that the ones that we had done or had used had the balance transfer fee as part of the first statement, which was a huge breath of relief. So now we took, say, a card that had a $17,000 balance and it was split out over 3 different cards. Obviously, there is a cost associated to doing that up front, but that cost was so minimal, $300-400, maybe a little bit more, because I think it's like anywhere from 3 to 5% of whatever the balance was. That cost was easily paid off and recouped within 2 months.
Because you weren't paying the interest.
Because we weren't paying the interest. And now we had we tried to find the cards that had the longest term.
Yep.
So we had ones that were as long as 18 months. 15 months was usually about the average that we had found. And we had used that other 12 to 13 months to then just attack whatever that principal was, being that the interest wasn't there.
Yeah.
So.
And then we got to the point where we had most of the card balances taken care of. And then the promotion started ending. But because of all of our hard work, we had other balance transfer offers at 0% come up.
So you jumped into another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
so
again, we had the fee come up. It would 3 to 5%, which would have been $100 maybe. And then we took care of that in our first payment anyway. And then I think we've done it now twice.
Yeah, we've done it to
maybe
the point
3 times.
we have taken care of all of the initial credit card debt, and now we're working on like student loans and the extra little things that we've had to get the interest down.
Yeah.
Give me some numbers. Give me some things you're proud of. Like, is there any numbers that come to mind? Like, hey, $17,000 on one credit card, you put it on 3, it's paid for. Like, what are you guys proud of in those numbers?
Yeah, where to begin? All right, well, first
gone.
the first numbers. So this will be the one time I reached to the technology. We had started with overall debt of $197,000.
Okay.
Like that's where we started. And then
that is consumer.
That is
credit
consumer
cards,
vehicles, student loans, anything that had a balance in some way, shape, or fashion, is where we started. And when we had started the process,
there was no real estate in that debt.
No,
Right.
no.
It's
I've been in real estate for 3 years, and we rent a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
That's another discussion that we've been going through, but it's been giving us the option to focus on this first and get into position, because we tried getting pre-approved and it did not go well.
Right.
And in the market right now, for what we're pre-approved for, everybody else is also pre-approved for those amounts. So we're like, you know what? We're okay with where we're at right now. Let's keep working on our debt while we can.
Yeah, because I mean, the debts that starting from the 197, like that's when we had that conversation and really got to the crux of what we had as overall debt. And I mean, the progress we made.
I think I was excited that because we had your spreadsheet, which was the kind of like the house graph and the inflow and outflow, and then I took another spreadsheet and just laid out everything so that way I wasn't messing with all of that.
To the penny, you said I'm understanding this. I'm wrapping my hands around it. You made it your own, which is like, it's hard to teach people that. So you just said, no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're figuring it out. And that's usually what happens. So that's awesome.
And I think once we got to the point where we paid off $20,000 and then $30,000 and then we hit $50,000 and we're like, oh my goodness, this feels amazing.
And it's helped because with the transitions that I've made in my business to becoming a solo agent, the overall business being in real estate, very few agents make it obviously 1 year and very few agents make it beyond 1 year. And having my business continue to grow has allowed me additional opportunity to, obviously being commission based, to grow the income that I have. So being able to apply more and more and more of that has allowed the payments that we've been making to exponentially grow. Because I think the first year, obviously we have it written down, but I think we had paid off just shy of $15,000 in the first 12 months.
Okay.
And then the next 12 months were how much?
Well, the first wasn't even 12 months. It was like 6. Because we started like officially paying in like June or July.
Okay.
So that felt good. But then we pretty much doubled that.
For the next year?
Yeah.
And then,
because that was 2018. 2019 was like 20-some, low 22,000 worth of debt. And then from there, already in 2020, we have paid down
almost 32,000.
32,000. So I think in total we're just shy of $70,000 that we paid off in the 2 years.
Two and a half years of
But-
getting like really around wrapping. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice
So
job, you
it's worlds different.
Tell me about that. So what do you mean world's different? Tell me about how you feel like things coming off you. Tell me more about that.
We consistently have at least 3 months of like bill money in our checking account. Like
And
we have that
was
rainy
not
day fund.
common
Heavens
prior
no.
to
Ever.
this, or-
Heavens.
No, and then we have a savings for taxes with Alex being a commission-based
Yep.
employee. We have a savings for a house. So that way when we do find the right property, we have that.
Mhm.
So like just being able to see money in the account,
Mhm.
it's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
It's freeing.
Not having to donate plasma twice a week is also a huge benefit.
Right.
As fun as getting a needle in the arm
Yeah.
is,
Right.
I'll pass
Yeah.
if I can. So just being able to have that sense of relief and reduction in anxiety. Like we still fight, we still argue, we still have things that we're working through, but it's not because of this.
Mhm.
It's because, okay, now we can actually start to think about things beyond groceries and housing and bills. Like
Yeah,
the
you
fact
guys
that
you were fighting over oxygen before, and
Mhm.
now
Yeah.
you're fighting over extra resources, or not fighting over, but like
Yep,
you have
100%
extra
We want to
resources.
grow.
gladiator
You're
style.
like, how do I grow it? What
Yeah.
do I do? Yeah, it's so you guys went from we need to survive here in our financial picture
Yep.
hmm
to all of a sudden, okay, we're surviving, and now we're I'm going to play a little defense. We're going to get some of these things. We're going to get it all figured out. We're going to play. We're going to play a little defense here and catch back up. We're going to put the full court press on these things. And where you're transitioning into now, after you eliminate all your debt, is okay. How do we play offense now with our money? How do we play offense now? Hold that money accountable. And what people don't really realize is you guys did the majority of the work already in terms of what you taught yourself in those first couple months. The things that you guys have learned now, yeah, you'll still want to learn more and add on top of it. But what you've learned and those disciplines you've applied, now you're going to take that. And that's how you're going to apply it to your investing. The way that you guys took and said, okay, which credit cards are the highest? Which is costing us, which of this debt is costing us the most amount of money? You're going to do that in the reverse now. You're going to say, I've got this amount in the account. It's making me this much. Where do I place it now to get me that highest return?
Yeah.
And those and you guys aren't pushing real hard for that conversation right now for that. You're starting to think of those things, but you're like when the time is right and we have the discipline or the down payment or we have the money ready to go, then you're going to go there. But like you guys are holding yourself true to like getting out, continuing that freeing feeling.
Yep.
And that's awesome.
I think the phrase that really sticks to at least to mine, but I know that we've talked about more than one time, has been the living in short-term pain for long-term pleasure as opposed to living in short-term pleasure for long-term pain. That has been a huge sticking point for us because we've had, I can't even begin to count how many discussions about living in a 2-bedroom apartment that neither one of us particularly like. It fits the lifestyle that we are in right now, but it's something where we do want more for ourselves. And that's really come down to it. Like, okay, yes, we want more, but look at what we've done, what we've been able to accomplish because we've been making this short-term sacrifice, as painful and as obnoxious as it sometimes is, and what it's allowed us to be able to successfully achieve.
It's a means to an ends right now. Like living in an apartment, like you said, not the greatest, but we've been able to pay off almost $70,000.
The cost and
debt.
expense has far outweighed the short-term benefit of hurry, let's rush and do something.
Yeah.
So
because we also know like the moment we're in a property, the type of property we want to get, our money's going to start going to that. So we want to make sure we have our debt taken care of.
Yeah.
That way we're not racking up more debt while we're doing that.
Bingo. Yeah, because it could. A big mistake I see people make is they start making progress like you guys, and then they make a move and take on too big of a house, take on a bigger car. They make that move that just shifts, and then it's like, oh man, you just erased 2 years of hard work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That could happen, and so I applaud your discipline there to stay with where you are. And even though you might not love the 2-bedroom, it's like it's working for us. We're making good strides, and it's what it's going to take until we're ready financially. And you guys say that you're ready. Okay, guys. So give me round up. So in the early days when you guys were getting control of your finances, really putting all the spreadsheet together, getting a really good idea of what's happening there. I'm assuming you spent more time on that. How much time do you spend like a typical week today looking at the numbers or kind of seeing where you are? Because I'm assuming you guys have clarity each week. How does that look like for you guys?
Sure. So I think I probably do most of it just because I
Yes.
like having that control.
Yep.
So I want to say I probably maybe do 2 or 3 hours a week. And it's just checking in, making sure our accounts are where they're supposed to be, making sure there's no surprises that we weren't aware of.
Annual fees, anything.
Which none of the cards we signed up for had annual fees. We also made sure that was clear. But just making sure that we're comfortable where we are, that, okay, what does he have coming in for listings, what's closing? And then we do usually a couple times a week, we'll go for a walk with our dog. And that's kind of when we talk through everything. Like, okay, here's where we're at. What do we want to do next? Kind of thing.
For my business, I've got a profit and loss statement that I've been using over the last 12 months that have helped tremendously. So we know always where income is and at what time periods for any clients that I'm currently helping. So we've got that. Way back at the beginning when we started this, we had separate banking accounts, checking accounts, and all of that. So we had merged all of that together and really not only in our relationship, but then developing that trust financially in order to row the boat in the same direction. But I know when it comes to the spreadsheets and having that control, she runs all of it. And I pretty much do a check-in like, okay, hey, where are we going? Where are things at right now? Is there anything I should be aware of? And aside from that, it's very, very difficult to give up that control. But I also know that we're in the same boat. So if we're going in the same direction, I should still be able to have that trust in the person that's rowing next to me. So it's something where I very seldomly, at this point in time, check the spreadsheet or monitor the bank account or checking account because I know that we have that conversation and that trust between us. So in terms of time-wise, the main work was up front, and then it's just kind of a weekly, monthly maintenance of an hour or two, and then the walks that we go on just to check in with each other where things are, if we need to tighten the reins a little bit in terms of spending, or if it's we've got some excess that we can maybe treat ourselves to something like dinner or a massage or something like that. Getting on that same page. So yeah, only a couple hours a month at this point.
It was interesting because you said you check kind of where you are, meaning like you look at your debts, you look at your assets, you look at your checking accounts. So you're looking at essentially your net worth statement, basically. Then you talk about, it was really interesting. You said, then I went to, okay, how much do we have coming in? How much is going out? Right. So you quickly went into a profit and loss statement for your family, essentially of income and expenses. Right. And then you guys have your conversations about what do we got coming in, what do we got going out. And it's pretty much in and around those three things that most really healthy financial wealth building, financial conversations happen around. So thank you for that.
Definitely.
Wow. Thank you guys for sharing a story with us. Is there anything else that you'd want to leave somebody with that might help them or really add value to somebody that maybe is going through a similar journey?
First thing, acknowledge that you're in a position of helplessness. We had said it at the beginning. That was the first one. Second is take an inventory of where you stand financially.
Everything.
Every single thing.
Yeah, there's no more ignoring a little bill here, a little bill there.
No, it's every single expense. You're going to have expenses beyond that, groceries, gas money, things like that. That's separate. These are actual true expenses that you have. So take a look at that, get a point of where you are, because it's hard to make any sort of progress if you don't know where you're starting. That's not how maps work. That's not how journeys work. So I would do that, have the conversations with people that are in those positions, whether in our instance it was you. We're fortunate in that we've been able to have these conversations with friends of ours who are in similar situations where, whether it's student loans or credit cards or whatever it is, have reached out and expressed hope in us being vulnerable and being very transparent about it, and acknowledge that it's okay to remove the emotion from the money It's very money. It serves a purpose. It's not meant to make us feel bad. Money can make you feel wonderful and make you feel terrible, but it's the value that we give to that, not the actual dollar itself. I think those are a few, and the fact that we're always here to support and kind of give that
And help.
Yeah.
help.
I want to say one more thing, because after you said like finding a mentor, and kind of making a game plan, making that map, you guys did the work. I mean, you guys made some sacrifices. You did the
Yes.
work.
Her spreadsheets are fantastic.
Right, I know, right, I know. And it's, you know, you can point to where the gym is. You can say you should be going to the gym or you should be going to do those things. But in your wealth building journey and development, if you don't go do the work, you guys are going and doing the work every single day. And there's blood, sweat, and tears in that work, and you keep pushing through it. The only thing I'd add to that end is you got to do the work done. And that's and you can do it.
Yeah, and be willing to make sacrifices, like you said. We made so many sacrifices, but then we found free resources in the community.
Yeah.
The library for TV shows and stuff like that.
There are so many things that we've wanted to do over these last 2 years that we haven't been able to. And does it suck? Yeah. Would it be wonderful to be able to go out to whether it's a party or take a trip or go somewhere or buy something? Definitely. But then we have that stark reminder of, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This takes precedent over this.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that we don't still treat ourselves. We are all about having a delicious dinner or drink or
a
massage or visiting people. Like, we're all about that, but it's not as pressing of an urge as it was because we've developed that discipline.
Sure. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for sharing your story. I think
My
a
pleasure.
lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of this, and know that they're not alone, and that they can be helped. And there's lots of people like yourselves. I'm sure you've already helped some of your friends and things like that. Reach out and don't be afraid to reach out and help. So there's help out there for you. So, well, thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have learned a lot from Alex and Amanda's story. I know I am truly inspired by them, and I hope that it's helped one of you. If you got a lot out of this video, I encourage you, please hit the like button and please subscribe.